converting a budget into a cash flow. A budget contains a set of totals, and it allows you and your partners, your bosses and your team to see the entirety of what's involved. However, you cannot run a live project just by reference to a set of totals. Indeed, you can't even really finalise a budget without working out when the money is going to be spent, because you may find that there are times when bills are due, but the income isn't there. So we also need to look at what happens if you go into the red. In template 1, you will find a second sheet. And that second sheet contains a 12-month cash flow, just as a set of headings. And the purpose of that is to enable you to take the totals in the budget and allocate them across the 12 months of a project. Actually, you'll find that I've set it up so that you can do up to 3 years if you really wish, but I've just used it for a 12-month example. And please feel free to change it, move stuff around, take out the bits that work for you, and use those ones and not the ones that don't. That should become your template rather than just mine. So once you have the right time period, running from left to right across the cash flow, your next task is to allocate that total budget into the way in which it's actually going to be spent. So for example, you might find that you pay a deposit at the beginning, but that you pay instalments to one of your suppliers, say halfway through and then at the end after it's been delivered. You also need to consider whether there will be a time delay. So for example, if you've issued an invoice, it fairly rarely gets paid on the same day that you issue it. There's quite often a 30-day, or in some cases, a 45 or 60-day delay between issuing an invoice and it being paid into your bank account. So in a cash flow, you need to take account of that delay, because what we're looking for is how is the bank balance going to vary. Now, if you're receiving grants from a funder, one of the questions you need to ask is, are they paying in advance before the project or in arrears during or after the project? This makes a fundamental difference. It's quite common in EU projects for that funding to be after the delivery. And the reason that matters is what they want to see is that you have already paid the invoices on the project and you're reclaiming the money back from them. So as you can imagine, if you're getting your income after you've spent your costs, you're going to need to account for this quite carefully in the cash flow. So, if a budget is about what the income and costs will be and how the money is being spent, then a cash flow is about when this will happen. Things to check in your cash flow and documents to compare it to. Does the total in your budget match the allocation over time in the cash flow? Have you accounted for possible delays in money coming in? Are there times when you're running in the red? So you're expending costs before the money has come in. If you're running in the red, how are you going to pay for this? And has your organisation agreed to underwrite it, or do you need to borrow money from the bank? Do the contracts with suppliers and the times when they're going to be paid match what you've allocated to the cash flow? Have you agreed with the funder or your organisation what the proof of spend is? Do you need receipts? Do they need to see the contracts? Because if you're going to need this in order to reclaim funds back from the grant provider, then you need to set it up in advance so that people provide it to you. Do your contracts indicate who is liable if costs are incurred but deliverables are not provided? Have you allocated some of your contingency for this? And if not, are you appropriately insured? What to do if your cash flow predicts that you'll go into the red? It's not automatically a bad thing for a project to go through a phase where you're spending money that you haven't yet received. It does, however, require planning. Let's take an example. A mythical dance company has won a project of £50,000 to deliver. They're going to receive that money in 3 stages. £15,000 before they start, £15,000 halfway through, and £20,000 after they've completed it. And by the way, that means in the 13th month, because the project is going to run for 12 months. Total project costs have been budgeted at £55,000 because the organisation plans to sell £5,000 worth of tickets. The challenge to the project is that they have planned to pay out £40,000 by the end of month 11. So that's because the performances will be in month 12 and they've got to pay most of it up front. However, they'll only have received £30,000 worth of grant, and even if they sold all £5,000 worth of tickets, they're still going to be £5,000 short. And of course, if they don't pay people before the performances may not happen. So they've got to find £5,000 that they don't yet have in order to make sure the performances happen. What are they going to do? Well, the good news is that they've worked it out in advance and they can see that there's going to be this cash flow hole that needs to be covered. Now, this is one project in an organisation. So that means that one thing they can do is go to the finance director and say, we've got this £5,000 hole, can we cover it from other funds coming into the organisation, or do we need to go to the bank, or do we need to talk to the funder about actually we need £35,000 up front in those 2 stages, and can we have 15 at the end? So what it's enabling you to do is negotiate it before it happens rather than get panicked by the surprise of it in month 11. Now, if the organisation decided that they needed to take out a loan from the bank for this, then of course the bank is going to charge them interest, and you would want to factor the interest on that loan into your budget. So now you can plan for when the money is coming in or going out. Agree to make staged payments with funders or with suppliers. Work out if you're going to go into the red, so spend money that you don't yet have, and determine whether you need more of a contingency in your budget. For each video, I've prepared a set of extra materials, reading lists, suggested articles to read. You'll find these below the video.